Welcome in, one and all. Hold on.
White House says at least 20 U.S. citizens are right now unaccounted.
All right. Welcome into the High Noon Report, Rant, whatever you want to call it. I'm Pugs Moran. I do this every Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, the only time zone that I consider. I don't even, that Central Time Zone. I've lived my whole life in the Central Time Zone. It's the best time zone. We do it Monday through Friday. It's headlines, current events, trends, hot topics, whatever it is that people are talking about on this day. We're going to run through it. We're going to cover it for you. I'm not going to spend too much time on any one subject. I'm going to give you why it's trending, why it's making headlines. I'll give you my hot take on it, and then we move on. We don't get bogged down in the political weeds. We don't do divisive politics at all. I don't care about red and blue. This is not that kind of a talk show. We're just talking about everything else. We're just talking about it like regular people who admit that both political parties in this country has failed us. This is not the kind of talk radio that you can get anywhere else. This is certainly, well, no, I probably can on YouTube, because on any of us that want to do this kind of talk radio, we've been banned from big radio. Big radio has banned us because, we see things pretty much right down the middle, and we notice that everybody's kind of an idiot. There's no place for us. There's only a place for specific idiots in terrestrial radio. So we do this, and we've been doing this now. We're going into our third year. So thank you so much, because this show exists because of you. And to that end, let's thank our executive producers on today's show. First of all, can we thank Frank? Frank is the executive producer. We had a couple of people tip yesterday. Thank you as well to co-producers Terry and Peter. I'll get to you guys in a minute. Frank tipped $23 yesterday, and that's a good amount. That's really good, and I appreciate that, Frank. Frank and I go back years and years. I have to assume that that's in tribute to either Michael Jordan or Robin Ventura. I don't know. 23, maybe Devin Hester. I don't know. Frank and I go back with our Chicago sports fandom years and years. So thank you, Frank. Frank is the executive producer on this show. He is joined by a couple of co-producers who do a lot of the heavy lifting. Executive producers, that's the Aaron Spelling guy. Co-producers are Darren Starr. Don't worry, Darren Starr went on to be like, Mr. 90210 and all that kind of stuff. Or Sex in the City, did he also do that? I don't know, whatever. He's big in his own right. But he started out, there was Aaron Spelling, who was Frank on today's show. And then there was like the Darren Stars, who are Terry and Peter. Now, let's talk about Terry. Terry for a minute. Terry, forgive me. You go by a different name in the chat room, and I don't want to out you unless you want to out yourself. But sometimes I forget that. Sometimes I forget that Terry and the person that he presents as in the chat room are the same person. Terry, or not Terry, I'm sorry. Let's see here. Am I wrong? Wait a second. Now I've got to out him in order to be sure that I'm right or not. Anyway, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Now I'm confused. Now who's who? Anyway, I don't know. There was a request in the chat room for the theme song, and we got a theme song, so we're going to play it. This is Rob Barr. Theme song time.
Welcome to the High Noon with Pugs Moran. Daily news from celebrities, maybe Iran. Get your water cooler fix. Get your water cooler fix. Show runs on your tips. Get your water cooler fix. Pugs and Company. Pugs and Company. Pugs and Company. Pugs and Company.
Let's
Pugs and Company.
all right, long fade. Yeah, that's a hell of a theme song. Thank you for that suggestion in the chat room. We hadn't played it in a while. I completely forgot it was there. My guy Rob Barr, who does amazing godly work in his real job, he runs a veterans charity that's quite big and done some pretty big things. Anyway, that's Rob Barr right there. Rob Barr, thank you so much. I like that theme. That's a good theme. That is, if this show were much more popular, that could still be the theme. That's how good that is. All right, so there you go. Thank you to Terry. Terry, we covered Terry there. Now let's get into Peter. Peter is also a co-exec producer, a co-producer on today's show. Thank you so much, Peter. Peter and I are celebrating today, and we'll get into it. I want to hear is Peter in the chat room? I don't know if Pete's in the chat room today. I want to hear all about the game last night. Peter went to the game. He was excited. He had fancy boy seats. Yeah, we're going to talk about the game. Texas Rangers are trending. You're damn right. Get that baseball thing going. All right, so we got a whole bunch of stuff to get to, as I say. Thank you. Those are your executive producers. If you would like to support the show and be an executive producer for tomorrow's show, all you got to do is drop a little something in the tip jar and support this kind of talk radio. Non-divisive, non-political, every day, all the hot topics and everything else you need to know about your day. Come one, come all. Let's get started. All right, here's how the show works. We start out by doing, in my head, it's 4 quarters. First quarter, we do a thing called Erstwhile on this day. That's previously on. We go through a couple of the events that have happened on this day in history that have shaped our perception of this day. Then we go into birthdays. And we talk about people who were born on this day. We look at their lives. We talk about what they've contributed. And, whatever. We just give our few cents on them. Then we go into my favorite part. This is the third quarter. These are the people who died. We talk about people who passed away on this day. This is where we allow ourselves to sit in judgment. We allow ourselves to take a look at these people who have passed away on this very day, look at their life resume, and decide based on our own understanding of what it takes to get into heaven and hell. Where are they? Where did they go when they died? Did they go to heaven or hell? So if you're ready, we do those things first, and then we get into all the hot topics and whatnot of the day. All right. I'm distracted because, there's a war going on in Israel, or more to the point, Gaza, I guess, right now. It was in Israel over the weekend, but now it seems to have moved pretty solidly towards Gaza. So I was distracted by that. But and then there's big news, or I don't know, big news. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Israel again today at the start of the show, because that's a hot topic. And there are new things that you need to know, new things that are being divulged today that we need to talk about. So we'll get into that. We'll get into all the ugliness. We'll also get into some silliness like this. So yesterday I was complaining. I'm like, man, you know what? Twitter, and yeah, I still call it Twitter because I'm an old head. Twitter used to be a really useful tool when big events were happening in real time. And I complained yesterday. I said, during this Israeli thing, Twitter was almost useless. I mean, I'm watching people who are presenting themselves as legitimate reporters on the scene, and they're sharing video game footage and calling it real war footage. So, that was just everywhere. And it's just really bad. So Twitter was pretty much useless YouTube was great. YouTube was good for getting breaking news. Not as good as Twitter could have been in the past. So I complained about that yesterday. Today, the European Union is going, hey, Elon, you got some explaining to do about your platform's behavior these past few days. So I'm not the only person who has noticed. The European Union has noticed. We'll talk about that as well. There's important things. There's silly things. Kylie Jenner's making the news, or maybe it's Kendall. I don't know. We'll figure out which one it is when we get there, but she's doing something dumb. We'll talk Rangers. We're going to get into that. Okay, so we got a whole bunch of stuff, all the things that are trending and all the things that are making headlines we're going to get to, but let's get started with today's show. Here we are. It is the High Noon Rant for the 11th day of October, year of our Lord. What? What? I wrote the date as 10/11/21. Oh my God, I think we might have actually been doing a show on 10/11/20. That's how old this show is at this point. Look at that. All right. October 11th today is October the 11th, and is the year 2023. It's the 284th day of the year. There's 81 more of these remaining until the end of the year, so get those news plans started. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's get into the segment we call Erstwhile on this day. These are all of the events that occurred on this day throughout history, or at least the ones that I think are interesting. All right, here we go. On this day, erstwhile. On this day in 1906, San Francisco sparks an international diplomatic crisis between the United States and Japan by segregating schools for Japanese students. Okay, so 1906, a lot of I don't know. I mean, looking at the world map, I guess if you were coming from Asia to the New World, you'd come in through that side, right? In Europe, you come in through the East Coast. Coming in from Asia, you arrive on the West Coast. So heavy Asian population there on the West Coast back in those days. Big Chinatown, big Chinatown in San Francisco. But nay, we're not talking about Chinatown. We are talking about the Japanese. A different culture. You racists, what, they're all the same to you? Anyway, at some point in 1906, they went, hey, look at these weird kids that all have the same haircut, because Asian people. That's the thing about my Asian friends. They always could do really interesting things with their hair because all of their hair is the same. Like it's it's like basically it's straight. It's the way you work with it. Oh, here he goes talking about Asian hair. I'm just saying Asian people have really cool hairstyles. They can do almost anything with it. Yet back in 1906, I imagine they all just kind of had, like 1906 Asian haircuts. So they said, hey, that's weird. And they just in 1906 thought it was perfectly acceptable to go, let's put these kids in a different box. 1906. Can't do that anymore. That's probably for the best. On this day in 1906, San Francisco tries to put all the Asian kids in boxes. On this day in 1937, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor tour Nazi Germany for 12 days. Oh, they are wined and dined by Adolf Hitler, and they come back after this, and they are talking about this guy. Oh, can this guy put on a spread? Now, who are these two D-bags, the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall? What are they? What were they? Windsor. All right, so this is Prince Eddie. This is the guy who was supposed to be king, but he fell in love with some, like, trampy American divorcee, Wallace Simpson. So he gave up the throne to his brother, who was Queen Elizabeth's dad. That's how we got Queen Elizabeth. So he gave up the throne to his brother. His brother was the one that wasn't supposed to be king, who had the stutter, right? Isn't that the King's Speech? Yes, that's Elizabeth's dad. Elizabeth's dad wasn't supposed to be king. But this dude was. And so this dude was like, no, I like the American hot girl. He basically gave up the throne for the Paris Hilton of 1930. Basically what he did. Gave up the throne for that. They lived happily ever after, and if you believe the stories, engaged in some of the craziest sex parties Hollywood has ever known, because that's where they moved. But anyway, right in like the year after, they didn't know what to do with him, because he was the king for like a little bit, and then he abdicated after like a couple of days because of his girlfriend, his Paris Hilton girlfriend. So he abdicates, and then they don't know what to do with him. They got a new king, but he's like also a king, so you got to treat him well, but they're pissed at him because he went with the American woman. So, he didn't really have, so they made him the Duke of Windsor. And he went on like an official state visit to Germany to like check out the new Hitler guy. And he came back like, Hitler's great. Screw that guy. Terrible judge of character. And he gave up the throne of England for like some... And have you ever seen pictures of Wallace Simpson back then? Like, look, there were beautiful women back then. This dude was the king of England. There were beautiful women back then. You had, and movie stars and stuff. She was not that. It's like when you look at Wallace Simpson, you're like, what? You gave up the king? Like, I jokingly said that it's the Paris Hilton of the time, but she wasn't a Paris Hilton at the time. She was like I don't want to insult anyone. I don't know. She wasn't the Paris Hilton of the time. Let's just leave it at that. All right, so there you go. That happened on this day in 1937. On this day in 1950, hold on, I'll have this for you in a minute. Google's making me sign in again. Google does this from time to time. Oh, you're so inconvenient, Google. While simultaneously being one of the most convenient innovations of my lifetime. So inconvenient and yet so convenient. All right. On this day in 1950, as we wait for the page to download, there it is. On this day in 1950, CBS's field sequential color system for television is first licensed for use in the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, color TV born on this day, brought to you by CBS. CBS was the first. On this day in 1968, NASA launches the Apollo 7. This is the first successfully crewed Apollo mission. That's a big deal. I'm a space geek. It's a big deal. This one was a big deal. Doesn't get a lot of the glamour because it's more nuts and bolts, but, more X's and O's, this one, but this was a big accomplishment. All right. On this day in 1976, George Washington, old gentleman George. Was that his nickname? I don't know. I've never heard him called that. Let's start calling him that. Old gentleman George Washington is posthumously promoted to the grade of General of the Armies. 1976. Do you guys remember 1976? Probably not, because you're not old like me. I remember 1976. I was six. I was 7. Whatever. Half the year I was 6. Half the year I was 7. 1976 was a crazy, it was the most patriotic year. That I was only 6, so I didn't have a full boat of stuff to compare it to. I only had 6 years. But man, you remember 1976 when all of the fire hydrants in America got painted red, white, and blue? And then like 20 years later, you'd go through like a crappy neighborhood and you'd see fire hydrants that were still red, white, and blue. And you're like, yeah, this neighborhood doesn't get their hydrants painted. That was a thing. You still go through bad neighborhoods and see remnants of red, white, and blue. Everything was red, white, and blue in 1976. It was our bicentennial. It was our bicentennial year. So I guess one of the things they did was as a sort of a symbolic sort of gesture, they elevated George Washington to General of the Armies 200 years after he died. On this day in 1986, Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, they meet in Iceland. Iceland, you ever been? You simply must go. They met in Iceland to continue discussions about scaling back IRBM arsenals in Europe. Now, this is interesting. This was the Iceland meeting where, I went looking for this picture. Here's the interesting thing about history. History suffers, or I don't know, maybe it benefits, and that's why it goes on because it constantly changes. Well, history suffers from sort of a telephone game. Like when things happen, years and years as that event is dissected and, people write books and there are entire chapters on, nuances, things become, mythology surrounding it. Like I'll give you an example. The Gorbachev-Reagan meeting, the mythology 35, 40 years ago when this happened, the mythology that has come out of that we all remember, well, maybe we don't, and that's why I'm telling you, but this is what I remember. Reagan psyched out Gorbachev in this thing. They humiliated them, and they did it on purpose. And what they did was, it was in Iceland, and Reagan had arrived first at the meeting. So Gorbachev was going to arrive second, which meant that Reagan was going to step out of the building and be on the steps and greeting Gorbachev. And these were going to be the first pictures of the two world leaders. Gorbachev pulls up, gets out of his car. It's Iceland, and he's from Russia. So Gorbachev is wearing, this is the story. This is the mythology. Gorbachev is wearing like a fur coat and a fur hat, and it's cold, and he gets out. And Reagan made the conscious decision to go out and wait for him without a jacket. Reagan was standing there on the steps wearing just flip-flops and cutoffs. And this is the mythology, that Reagan went out there on purpose and didn't wear a coat to make Gorbachev look weaker, to make Gorbachev look like, oh, he's cold like a woman, that whole thing. It was the 1980s. But here's the problem. So I wanted to grab a picture of that. I was like, yeah, isn't that what happened? And I went back earlier this morning and I started looking for pictures that depict the way I remember that event. And they just don't exist. There are pictures of Reagan wearing a suit jacket. He's wearing a suit. He's wearing a suit jacket. He's not wearing an overcoat. And there's a picture of Gorbachev wearing an overcoat and getting out of the car. But man, history, mythology has really sort of changed that. I don't know if you can find a good picture of that. I'd like to see it, because I remember it as Reagan, basically wearing a tank top, right? Like, hey, what are you, cold, Gorby? What's going on? This is beautiful. That's the vibe. That's the memory that I have of it. I couldn't find any pictures that back that up. I saw some pictures of, Gorbachev wearing a jacket, but certainly none of him wearing a fur coat and a hat like the way I remember it. On this day in 1986, I don't remember it that way. On this day in 1991, Anita Hill. Remember on this day in 91, Anita Hill, she got down in front of Congress and she was like, there was a pubic hair in my Diet Coke can or something. I don't know. It was so weird. This was the Clarence Thomas hearings. Clarence Thomas was being elevated to Supreme Court Justice, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. And, this woman who worked with him, Anita Hill, came forward and was like, he's kind of a perv. And it was like the beginning of all of these things, which are now normal. This was in no way, shape, or form normal in 1991. I remember a Saturday. She testified on a Saturday, and I was at Northern Illinois University, and we had gone to a frat party the night before, and I was sleeping in a friend's dorm room, and I woke up on the floor a Saturday morning, probably 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is, whatever time it is you wake up, because you don't wake up when you're done sleeping. You wake up when people start screaming in the hallway. That's how that works. And I remember waking up, laying on the floor, and my friend Tom, who I don't know if Mama Beller is in the chat room, but Tom is her son. My son Tom was watching the hearings. He was already up, big bowl of cereal, and I opened my eyes. And I remember just laying there. I vividly remember watching the Anita Hill hearings, while really hungover and just dying for an Egg McMuffin and a hash brown. That and a Gatorade. Actually, that's it. That was my my old go-to for hangovers. And oh my God, is it a fantastic cure. I don't think it works anymore because I'm not, 21. But my cure for hangovers was 2 hash browns, an Egg McMuffin, a thing of Gatorade, and 2 Tylenols. Or not 2 Tylenols, 2 ibuprofens. Boom! I get that in me. That's how you rally. I don't even boot. I'm not a guy. I never had to boot. Never had to recycle. I could always hold it down. All right. I was on this day in 1991. Anita Hill said she found a pubic hair on her Coke can. Let's do some birthdays. Let's move into quarter 2 of this here show. Bada, bada, bada. They say it's their birthday. Born on this day in 1884, Eleanor Roosevelt, American humanitarian and politician. She wasn't a politician, was she? Did she run for anything? I don't know. She represented her family's party. She represented her family. Eleanor Roosevelt, born on this day, 1884. Born on this day in 1925. Here's a real one. Elmore Leonard. He was cool. Elmore Leonard was a writer. Started out, he was like, he wrote Westerns and stuff, I think. But Elmore Leonard for me is Get Shorty, Out of Sight, Justified. Elmore Leonard, Justified. Comes from the Elmore Leonard short story, Fire in the Hole. Elmore Leonard, born on this day in 1925. Born on this day in 1946, Daryl Hall. She's got. Oh, wait, well, I saw him once live, and I saw him do something vocally that I'll never forget. It was so incredible. You know that song, She's Gone? You know, the Hall & Oates song. She's gone, so out, babe, she's gone. You know, and I can't sing it, but you know what I mean. There's a part in that song, and I remember I was standing. I wasn't far at all. Like I could see him. Like I could see what it took for him to hit this note. And you know that note in the song "She's Gone" at the end where he goes, "She's gone." He like really goes for it at the end. Man, I saw him do that. And I hadn't really, it's probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I had no real consideration for Daryl Hall. I liked Daryl Hall and John Oates as a tandem. You know, they were pretty much omnipresent in my life growing up. Nobody loved Hall and Oates, but they were everywhere all the time, and you tapped your toe to their songs, and you were okay with them. You know, whatever. But man, when I saw Daryl Hall do that, She's Gone, and hit that note, I was like, whoa, okay. All right, now I get it. Now I see why him and not the other guy. I get it. I get it why he broke through. Daryl Hall, born on this day in 1946. He's got a great reality series, too. It's a music reality series where he just jams in his barn. It's pretty cool, though. It is cool. All right, Daryl Hall, born on this day, celebrating a birthday, born on this day in 1953. How about one of my favorite That Guy actors? Ladies and gentlemen, it is David Morse's birthday. Now, do you know who David Morse is? You may not. David Morse is an actor. He's a That Guy actor. I like to, here, I'm going to show you him because that's what we do here with That Guy actors. We show you a picture of him and you go, oh, yeah, that guy. David Morse, for me, I first noticed him back in the early 80s. He was the star of he was Boomer on St. Elsewhere. St. Elsewhere was one of my favorite shows. He played Boomer. Boomer was one of the nicest characters in television history. I loved Boomer. He's gone on to do all kinds of other roles. Boom, here he is. Happy birthday, David Morse. He's a That Guy actor. He's really good. Sometimes, you know what he does? He plays like really nice and really fucking psycho. Well, like he can do both. Like he can play both characters. He can be the dad of he can be the widowed father of the teen girl that, you have sympathy for, or he can be the serial killer. He does them both. He's David Morse, and he's celebrating a birthday today. He's a That Guy actor. I like him a lot. All right. Also celebrating a birthday today, born on this day in 1961, the greatest backup in the history of the NFL. Yeah, I do. I mean, that's actually kind of a fun game. I haven't really thought this through, but certainly any argument about who the greatest backup in the history of the NFL is, any argument would certainly mention Steve Young backing up Joe Montana. That's pretty good. Aaron Rodgers backing up Brett Favre, also pretty good. I'm sure there's others. It is Steve Young's birthday. Steve Young, man. Steve Young was the modern quarterback, the modern quarterback of today. What you would want today, all of the perfect things, all of the things. First of all, you still need a pocket passer, right? You need a guy who can stand tall in the pocket and deliver rice pellets, and that's what Steve Young could do. But also in this game, you need to be an RPO guy. You need to be able to get on the outside, take the edge. You need to be able to create after the play busts out. Steve Young was the greatest running quarterback I had ever seen until that time. Now, granted, I was comparing him to Fran Tarkington, Jim Plunkett, but no, man. Steve Young could run. Steve Young could scramble. Happy birthday, Steve Young. One of the most underrated quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Shit. I remember watching Steve Young with the LA Express because I was a USFL guy. I love the USFL. Happy birthday, Steve Young. Born on this day in 1961. He's a terrific analyst, too. Born on this day in 1962, Joan Cusack. The member of the Cusack family who hasn't blocked me on Twitter. That's right. John Cusack and his crazy... I like Joan Cusack. Joan Cusack is John Cusack's sister. What has she done? She's done everything. She's been in everything. First time we saw her was in 16 Candles. She was the girl in the neck retainer trying to get a drink from the water fountain in 16 Candles. Remember? That was Joan Cusack. Also, John Cusack was in 16 Candles. Did you know that? He was the guy in the bathroom paying to see Molly Ringwald's panties. Remember in the bathroom where Farmer Ted holds him? Anyway, my point is this. It is Joan Cusack's birthday. She was on Shameless. She's great. We like her. Born on this day in 1962. Born on this day in 66 and dead. I hate this. I'm like, he's born in 1966. Oh, that's right. He's dead. That sucks. Luke Perry. He wasn't Dylan. Who was he? Who did Luke Perry play at 90210? There was Dylan Walsh. That was Priestley. That was Jason Priestley. Who did Luke Perry play? James Dean looking kid. Dylan. Wait, Dylan McKay. Who's Dylan McKay? Who's Brandon Walsh? Dylan McKay? Did I just get it? Did my brain just work? Is it Brandon Walsh and Dylan McKay? I'm going to rely on the chat room to confirm that that's right. Brandon Walsh and Dylan McKay. Oh, shit. Or are those the two dudes from Nip Tuck? Dr. Dylan. No, that doesn't sound right. All right, we're moving on. We're getting out of this. It was Brandon Walsh. It was Brandon Walsh and Dylan McKay. It's got to be it. Is that Ed? That's got to be Ed. Who's chiming in as me? Because someone's chiming in as Pugs and Company. And I'm, okay, that's Ed. I was distracted for a minute, but we'll get past it. Happy birthday to you, Joan Cusack. And happy birthday to you, Luke Perry. Both of you born. No, I'm sorry. I thought they were umbilical twins. They're not. Born on this day in 1966. How about Todd Snyder? Todd Snyder's a great singer-songwriter, a great performer. I love Todd Snyder. Rocket Fuel would be a song I would suggest you listen to. Rocket Fuel, Rocket Fuel. How about Ordinary Guy? No, not Ordinary Guy. All Right Guy. That's what it is. All Right Guy. That's a good one. That's a good Todd Snyder song. Todd Snyder. I really liked him. I used to see him a lot in Chicago in the 90s. Todd Snyder, born on this day in 1966. Born on this day in 1967 and still alive, shockingly. What kind of a god takes a Luke Perry from us but leaves Artie Lang to just fester in the sunlight? Artie Lang. Happy birthday, Artie Lang. Born on this day, 1967. How's he doing? Like, how's he doing? That would be the question. I'd be like, he's not on Howard anymore, right? Well, what's he do? Does he act? Like the only time he pops up on podcasts sometimes, and it's always in relation to Artie talks about Howard. That's an industry unto itself. People who have worked for Howard Stern who then go and do podcasts about working for Howard Stern. Yeah, I don't know what's up with him. Artie Lang, happy birthday. Born on this day in 1967. Born on this day in 1968. How about Jane Krakowski? Jane Krakowski. Is she a babe? I don't know. She was on 30 Rock. She was Jenna Malone. Is that her name? Jenna Malone? Or is that an actress? Isn't there an actress named Jenna Malone? Or is Jenna Malone the actress character from 30 Rock? I don't know. It's her birthday. It's her birthday, and there's just like I can look at okay. So here's the thing. So I've got two friends that I can think of who find her very attractive. And I guess she is. Like, I look at Jane Krakowski and I look at her in the role on 30 Rock and I go, oh, yeah, she's a pretty woman. Absolutely. I should be so lucky, right? You know, that's like, you look at her. But then we have to slide it into the Hollywood scale. Like, okay, this is a fantasy. I'm never actually going to date her. So if she's on the table, then who else is on the table? Is Scarlett Johansson on the table? Because honestly, that's how I look at these things. So, you know, anyway, Jane Krakowski, she's a beautiful woman. She's a Cleveland 8. For sure, she is a Cleveland 8. Maybe a Cleveland 9. No, Cincinnati 9, a Cleveland 8. And yes, I do make a distinction. Women in Cleveland are better looking than women in Cincinnati. Born on this day in 1968, Jane Krakowski. Here's another one. Born on this day in 1970. All right, so I gave you that guy actor. Now I'm going to give you that girl actor. Born on this day in 1970. She's a good one. I like this one. She's one of my, and it's the only reason I'm doing this. Constance Zimmer. Do you guys know who Constance Zimmer is? Oh, you'll know her when you see her. She's in absolutely everything, but she's not famous. And she looks like half a dozen other actresses. There's like, I always say that Hollywood always has one in reserve. You know what I mean? Like, they're having all of this luck with Goldie Hawn for a bunch of years in Hollywood. And then she starts to get a little bit fadey. And then you're like, well, we got this thing called a Meg Ryan. And then they introduce you to a Meg Ryan. And it's the same thing as a Goldie Hawn. And this goes on and on and on. Interestingly enough, there was a play to replace Meg Ryan, who replaced Goldie Hawn with Kate Hudson, who's Goldie Hawn's daughter. They tried to do it with Almost Famous, but Kate Hudson's career didn't take off. It didn't take off the way they intended. But that was the play. They were trying to go Goldie Hawn hits 45. She's got to go away. Let's introduce the world to Meg Ryan. Meg Ryan turns 45. She's got to go away. Still need an actress in that mold. Hey, doesn't Goldie Hawn have a daughter? That's how it works. Anyway, Constance Zimmer. She's one of many. There are many Constance Zimmers in Hollywood, but there's really only one Constance Zimmer. There she is. She's a lovely actress. She's a that girl actress. She shows up in a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm like, oh, that chick. What's her name? Actually, I remember her name because I think Zimmer's a funny name. There she is. She's an actress. I don't know, what does she play? She often plays put upon executives, corporate types. Where I guess she was in, wasn't she famously that in Entourage? Isn't that where she was when she was a studio executive in Entourage or something? Was she Dana, the studio? I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway, happy birthday, that girl actress, Constance Zimmer, born on this day in 1970. All right. Also, let's see here. Let's a couple more. Yeah, a couple more birthdays to celebrate. Born on this day in 1992, Cardi B, American rapper. I think I like Cardi B. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't bet the kids' college fund on it. Actually, I should say I wouldn't bet the kids' pretend college fund on it. Like, I don't know her music. Like, if you played a piece of music, I would go, oh, I know that song, but I wouldn't know it to be Cardi B. Because I don't know who the artists are. Like, oh yeah, I've because pop music today, you hear it pumping gas. You'll be at the gas and you'll be like, oh yeah, I like that song. And you start to like things, but you're not necessarily in the scene. So you don't know who the person is, and you don't really care because taxes and divorce and adult stuff, that makes you not necessarily all that focused as maybe when you were 18 years old. So I don't know if I like Cardi B or not, her music. I think I like her as a human, though. I think she's fun. I don't know, maybe like there's any minute now, there could be a story where Cardi B does something. I'm like, I guess she sucks. But I think I like her. I think she seems fun. I think she seems like, harmless, and she's just, Cardi B. Anyway, happy birthday, Cardi. What's the difference between Cardi B and Nicki Minaj? Who does the song? Okay, wait, this is important. Who does the song? Let's go to the beach, let's grab a wave. Beep, 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 beep. I'm an old guy. That's all I know about that song. I like that song. Is that Cardi B? If that's Cardi B, then it seals it. I guess I like her. Is she with somebody? There's like some crazy hip hop couple that they're kind of funny. They do silly things. They make fun videos. They seem like fun. I don't know. Is that her? I don't know. I have no idea. All right, let's move on. Born on this day in 1994, happy birthday to one of the Watt brothers, T.J. Watt. Apparently, the NFL's getting into this too. The NFL is doing what Hollywood does. They always have one in reserve. You got a Watt in reserve. You got Bosa's in reserve. Who else do you got? You got Sewells. There's like half a dozen Sewell. The Sewell family have taken over the NFL the way the Sutters took over the NHL in the 1980s. There's like three. There's Penei Sewell. There's Noah Sewell. There's like three Sewells in the NFL. Anyway, there's also a couple of Watts, and they're both, well, there's one Watt now. One of them's gone. JJ's gone. But TJ, happy birthday, TJ Watt. It's his birthday. Do we make a distinction between the Watts and the Bosas? I don't know. Is one group like which brother tandem is better? The Bosa brothers or the Watt brothers? Not granted, JJ's not playing anymore. But let's look at career. Like who? I don't know. That's good. Not a conversation I'd be willing to waste any of this show's time on, but have a couple beers. We could talk about that. All right, that's going to do it for birthdays. Happy birthday, TJ Watt, born on this day in 1994. Let's go into the deads. These are the people who have died on this day. We're going to run through them very quickly, and we're going to determine whether or not we think they are in heaven or the hell. Let's go. Starting out, dead on this day in 1667. If you die in 1667 and your date is noted in 1667 and we still are like, yeah, okay, in 2023, you probably did some jacked up stuff in your time. Matthias de Medici. That's right, the Medici family. These dudes in hell. Come on, there is no way. 1667, this dude was a Medici. You think he's going to heaven? Hell no. On this day, dead on this day, 1779, the great Kazimierz Pulaski. Who was Kazimierz Pulaski? You guys are wondering. Not my Chicago friends. My Chicago friends are all like, oh, I know this one. Kazimierz Pulaski is like, I don't know. It's like Dirk Nowitzki. The way Dirk Nowitzki is in Dallas, Kazimierz Pulaski is in Chicago, where I grew up. He's a big deal there. He was a Polish cavalry general who came over to America during the Revolution and basically taught the Americans how to fight on horseback. So that's who he is. There's a big important street in Chicago called Pulaski. Pulaski Day. Is Pulaski Day a national holiday or is it just a day in Chicago? I don't know. Anyway, he's in heaven. Dude, look what he did. He gave up his commission in the Polish military. He was like an important dude. Gave it up to come over here. Why? Because he hated the British. Because he really hated the British. He really wanted to teach us how to kill British people from horseback. And he did. Kazimierz Pulaski, American hero. Dead on this day in 1779. He's in heaven. Dead on this day in 1961. How about Chico Marx? Now, y'all know I love me some Marx brothers. I love Marco. Marco Marx. That's why isn't it? Why wasn't that? Would have been a good one, Marco. I like Groucho. I like Harpo. I like Chico. That's his birthday, Chico. And then there's Zeppo. Zeppo is the one that, you don't even really need to worry about. Okay, so Chico was, so you had Groucho, who was the boss, and you had Harpo, who was like, what the hell was that? Was just some noise? I don't know. That sounded like, man, I'll tell you. I don't know what this has to do. It probably has nothing to do. There have been a lot more military jets flying out of Love Field over the past few days, and they're really loud. That's why. And that one was just what just took off. Wasn't a regular Learjet or a private jet, because we know what those sound like because we live in the flight path. No, these like fighter planes, like a fighter plane just you can tell, the difference. You can tell from the sound and the way they accelerate and the power. Anyway, that just happened. It's been happening. I don't know what's going on. Where was I? What were we talking about? Dead people. Oh, the Marx brothers. I'm sorry. So you had Groucho, who was the boss, and then you had, and this was a comedic device back then. You had, and I'm going to use a term that is used in not anymore, but it was used back then. You had Harpo. Harpo was the retard. Okay, that's what they used to call it. When you had a comedy team in vaudeville and all of that, there was always a boss, a mean guy, and a retard. Okay, sometimes the boss and the mean guy were the same thing. like Mo from the Three Stooges, but Curly was the retard. Ugly word, I know, we don't really use it that much, but that was the term in comedic circles. Chico Marx was sort of like, I don't know what Chico was. I don't know what kind of, so you know what, we're going to put him in heaven because he's a Marx Brothers, and he is one of the good ones, although not one of the, if there are 4 Marx Brothers, Chico would be 3rd. There you go. But that's 3rd in the Marx Brothers. That's good enough to get into heaven. There you go. Red Fox died on this day in 1991. I don't know a whole lot about a whole bunch of stuff, but based on what I understand of heaven and hell, Red Fox is in hell, man. That dude could party. Now, this is exactly why I say, well, when the good Lord comes and judges me for all of my life's experience, I'm starting to think that maybe I want to be sent down because all the fun people are getting sent down. Who would you rather hang out with? Red Fox or who'd be sent to heaven? Kazimir Pulaski. Kazimir Pulaski can't even speak English. It's going to be like broken Polish. It's not going to be fun. You can be in heaven with Kazimir Pulaski on this day, or you can be in hell with Red Fox. I know where I'd rather go. Red Fox is in hell, and so am I. Dead on this day in 2006, Corey Lytle. You guys, any old baseball heads remember Corey Lytle? Corey Lytle was a pitcher for the New York Yankees who on his off day flew his plane into an apartment building on the East River. In 2006. I remember when this happened. It happened in the middle of the day. Happened like we were on the air, and all of a sudden there's all this breaking news about a plane hitting a building in New York City on 2006. And you can imagine where everybody went. Turned out just Corey Lytle. Corey Lytle. I don't know. Does he go to hell for flying I mean, 26. A lot of people got hurt. He flew this building. Here, I can show you this building. Look at this building. This is the building that he flew his plane into. Yeah. Hold up here on Google Maps for you. No, we're not going to use the Corey. All right, here we go. Boom, boom, boom. So here, I want to show this to you. Talk about how he... Ugh. All right. Yeah, so here it is. Look at this. Boom. So that's it. That red building there, he flew his plane. He was learning how to fly. He was with a pilot instructor. And apparently what was happening here, make sure this is sharing. It is sharing. He was coming down the East River this way from the north. And he was attempting to make a turn here to head back north. But because he was a rookie pilot and he was just learning, and I don't know, maybe because he was a famous baseball player and the guy that was teaching him how to fly was just impressed to be with him. Maybe he wasn't nitpicking. But as he brought his plane coming back this way, and the arrow will be the plane, as he brought the plane back this way, he decided to make a turn, and he turned into a wind that literally blew his plane, boom, right back into this building right here, crashing into this right here, that first step. That's where it went. All right, so where is Corey Lytle? I don't know. He's a baseball player. He's a baseball pitcher. He flew his plane, and he hurt a whole bunch of people. Let's just put him in heaven. Why be a dick about it? Let's put him in heaven. All right, dead on this day in 2022. Let's talk about this one. Here's a big one. This lady died on this day in 2022, 1 year ago today. English-American actress, singer, and producer, and American icon. Ladies and gentlemen, we're putting her in heaven. She's Angela Lansbury. Murder, She Wrote, died on this day. We're putting her in heaven. All right, that's going to do it, folks. That's pretty much it. Those are the dead people. We've gone through the first 3 quarters of the show. It is now time for us to run into all of the things that are happening today. Let's get you briefed up on the world as we are experiencing it. I need a drink. Thank you. Thank you. All right. It is at this time again that we'd like to remind all you good folks, this show runs on your tips. Appreciate you. Treat me like your bartender. Treat me like I'm your pizza delivery guy. Drop a little something if you appreciate and want to encourage this kind of radio moving forward. What kind of radio is this, you ask? Well, non-divisive, non-political, just regular over-the-fence post backyard talk. That's what we do here. I'm going to leave that up. If you feel so inclined, tip the show. People who tip during this show will get the privilege. I don't know. That's the word that popped out. You'll get to be the executive producer. Today's executive producer is Frank, and he is being backed up by, I'm just going to go ahead and call him Barney. Barney and Peter. Peter went to the game last night. Very jealous of that. Very jealous. All right, let's run through some of the things that are happening today. Let's see. Big news out of Washington, D.C. Let's start domestic. They're all getting together and they're trying to determine who the next Speaker of the House is going to be. Seems to be right now it's between Jordan and Scalise. There doesn't seem to be any way that either of these guys are going to get it. And then you've got doomsayers. You've got other people who are coming out of the private meeting saying, if we don't settle on a candidate today, it's going to be a long haul. So apparently it's not going well. Both Scalise and Jordan said in the meeting earlier today that the House will probably have to pass another temporary measure to fund the government because of the lost time in negotiating annual spending plans. So, all right, wait. So here's the thing. This is kind of the funny thing that's happening now. So, we got this budget crisis. They did an emergency deal. They kicked the can down the road, as they like to say. And because they kicked the can down the road, a bunch of people, Matt Gaetz and others, they got mad and they threw out Speaker McCarthy. So now we have no speaker. We still don't have a budget. Well, I mean, we do for the time being, but that's going to run out really soon. And we need to get a speaker in place before they start the next round of negotiations to figure out if the government's going to close or not. So that's going on. Oh, yeah. Also, war. But, one thing at a time, right? Both Scalise and Jordan sat in the meeting that the House will probably have to pass another temporary measure to fund the government because of lost time in negotiating the annual spending plans, several lawmakers said. All right, so they're admitting what they're saying here in their little meetings to determine who they're going to put up as a candidate for the speaker. What they're saying is, hey, before we get started, we all need to agree. We're going to kick the can down the road again. So that's the first order of business. We're going to make sure we keep the government open. We're going to kick it down one more time. And now after we settle on that, we all agree. Okay. So that's all agreed on. You guys, that's the reason they got rid of McCarthy. They got rid of McCarthy because Gaetz and a few other people revolted against his brokering a deal with the Democrats. They kicking the can down. That's the reason that McCarthy is gone. So now they're like, hey, since he's gone, we're going to have to kick the can down the road. It's like, my God, talk about scoring an own goal. But that's not what it's about. Because for people like Matt Gaetz, this was never about the actual principle of governing and being a responsible legislator. That's not what this is ever about. It's about what can I say that's going to get me on Fox News tonight? Or what can I say that's going to get me on? That's all it is. It's just personal grandstanding. He didn't give a shit to get. You think he gives a shit if mailmen lose their paychecks because the government shuts down? He doesn't care about that. He cares about his TV time. Let's see here. Temporary funding legislation will be a controversial proposal. All right, because they got to get this straight. Temporary funding legislation will be a controversial proposal for the hardliners who voted to depose McCarthy, many of whom cited his very support for a short-term spending deal as the reason they removed him. There you go. There's the own goal. They just can't get out of their way. Bunch of idiots. All of them are idiots. None of them are good. Stop it. Stop acting like your party is good. It's not. Your party sucks too. All right. Now let's talk about Israel. All right. Oh, God. Israel is trending. For obvious reasons. All right, so here's the latest. There are sirens going off in the north. Why is this important? Because all of the action that we have been concentrating on has been going on in the south, or at least for the most part, in the south area of the Gaza Strip. We're talking about the area where Hamas is. We're talking about down towards the border with Egypt. We're talking about that part. Now, to the north of the Gaza Strip, there is Lebanon. Lebanon doesn't have Hamas. They've got Hezbollah up there. Hezbollah is a little different, kind of the same thing, Coke and Pepsi, if you will, but Hezbollah is up there. Hezbollah hadn't been doing anything. Remember, this attack on the Israeli people came from Hamas in the south of Gaza. Okay, that's who did this. Hezbollah is up there in the north. Ain't done nothing yet. Well, the big news today is that there are now air raid warnings and sirens going off in the north, Haifa to be exact. Haifa would be an area that is in the range and would be a target of Hezbollah. Hezbollah is another organization, terrorist, a paramilitary organization. Hezbollah is entirely funded by Iran. They are Iran's paramilitary organization in the region. Hamas, on the other hand, the one in the south, Hamas isn't really funded by anybody but Hamas at this point. Hamas originally began, it was not so much like put their name on the paper and said, we're doing this, but the reason that Hamas came up in the 1980s was because of the Egyptian group, the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood put Hamas together, or at least saw to it that they would. The way Iran did with Hezbollah in the north, that's what the Muslim Brotherhood did with Hamas in the south. However, this gets complicated because Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood haven't been friends in a decade. The Muslim Brotherhood and Egypt as a whole are participating in the Israeli-led boycott of Gaza that's been going on for years. So there we go. So we've got Hamas in the south and we've got Hezbollah in the north. Hamas has been who we've been dealing with, and it's been awful. But we've been worried that Hezbollah is going to get involved. And as of an hour ago, air raid sirens were going off in the area where Hezbollah will be getting involved. So developing ... Still no land incursion. We're hearing about this massive 300,000 plus reservist call-ups. I saw a picture, a real crazy picture of it looked like a parking lot at like a Superdome or something, but it turned out it was a city street. And this little town, this little kibbutz or whatever the hell it is over there in Israel, was a rendezvous point for call-ups. So all the call-ups, everybody in Israel is in the army, which is kind of badass when you think about it. Everybody in Israel's in the army. It's like, mandatory service. So they called up all these people and they all reported to this one rendezvous point and they all parked their cars. And we're talking about 30,000 people came to this little town of like 5,000. And the picture of the abandoned cars, well, not abandoned cars because they just left their cars there to go fight in the war. But it's stunning. It's like, oh my God. I mean, it looks like the largest used car super sale ever. I mean, it's just, and you think it's a parking lot, and then you pull out and you start to see, that's not a parking lot. Those are streets. Those are cars parked 150 deep, 4 across on streets. Those streets are immovable. You can't move through. Anyway, big call up. So we're waiting on that. We're waiting on the ground fighting to start. There's also a lot of stories about there will be no large-scale ground invasion until there has been some sort of remedy of the hostage situation. Hostages, whole bunch of hostages. Something else that we learned this morning. The White House is now saying that there are 20 known U.S. hostages. Is this the number? Hold on, let me make sure I get this number right because I don't want to inflate it for hyperbole or whatever. I want to make sure I get the right number because I did see a couple of different numbers on this. Biden confirms Americans among hostages captured in Israel. Okay. At any rate, there's Americans there. So I don't know how that changes the metric. Honestly, it doesn't for me. It never has. That doesn't change. Any event that's happening in the world, right? If something terrible is happening and then, it leaks over into our TVs, because that's how we get the news from our TVs. And it leaks over to our TVs that there's one American over there in Yemen. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's why I don't go to Yemen, right? I mean, I don't feel like we now, the United States, has to wage all-out war because, a bunch of Americans wanted to go to a peace and love music festival. I don't know that should change I mean, we have the freedom here in America to go to dangerous places and do dangerous things. That was a dangerous thing. If my kid told me he wanted to go to Israel, I'd be like, that's a dangerous place, right? You get that? And I would do whatever. I mean, I don't know what I try to talk about. Who knows? Whatever. Cross that bridge when we get there. But the point is this. There are Americans over there, and that is terrible. But that shouldn't move our needle any more than it already should have. The terror attacks is what should move our needle, not the fact that there's 14 Americans. Is it 14? Oh, AP, stop with your pop-ups. President Joe Biden on Tuesday confirmed that U.S. citizens are among the hostages captured by Hamas as he condemned the militant group for the sheer evil of its shocking weekend assault on Israel. Our hearts may be broken, but our resolve is clear, said Biden, who compared the brutality of the Hamas militants. Again, AP, I'm starting to see this, and I'm starting to get upset. There is no both sides on this. There might be both sides in the greater historic issue. There certainly is. There certainly is a case to be made for the Palestinian people to be heard out about the way they've been treated. I know that I have some concerns. I know that I have, but that's not what this is about. This is about the last 72 hours where people were butchered. That's what we're reacting to, not the greater historical issue between. And as I said last night, don't tell me, this is just, this is just Jews and Arabs. It's about religion. Nothing we can do. That's a tap out. When we allow for that argument, when we give that argument weight, it goes back thousands of years. It's biblical. When we do that, what we do is we just go, I ain't got to worry about it. I ain't fixed it for 2,000 years. You know what I mean? That's not what this is about. This is not about that. This is about relatively recent developments, most notably between the people in Gaza themselves, and having a lot to do with the two parties that are vying for control of the Palestinian hearts and minds. Those two parties are the Palestinian Authority, which is the globally recognized governing body of the displaced Palestinian people. They are governed by a guy by the name of Mahmoud Abbas. He goes to the UN, he has state dinners, he's legit. But then also within Gaza and within the Palestinian movement, there's Hamas. Just like in America, we've got Republicans and Democrats. Well, they've got Palestinian authorities and they've got Hamas sympathizers. Hamas is far more violent. Hamas is trying to show the Palestinian people that there is a way to defeat the Zionist oppressors that doesn't rely on decades and decades of diplomacy and meetings and all that. Hamas is trying to show the people that it's time to go to war, and that's what they did this weekend. And the rest of the world, we all need to go, yeah, no, bad calculation on your part, Hamas. So, I mean, that's really what's going on here. This is about one radical group of Palestinian terrorists, Hamas, and don't try and... The Palestinian Authority grew out of the PLO. The PLO and Yasser Arafat were absolutely terrorists, but over the course of 30 years, they made some changes. You can draw correlations to Ireland and Sinn Féin, how the IRA went from a terrorist organization to Sinn Féin being a recognized, legitimate party. That's what the Palestinian Authority did. They even rebranded. They were like, we're not the PLO anymore. The PLO is Yasser Arafat. We're the Palestinian Authority. And that's what they've tried to do. They've tried to now, for the last 20 years, engage in the Palestinian-Israeli peace process through diplomacy and through having a place at the table. That is what the Palestinian Authority has been trying to do. That's why there hasn't been any real problems there. Hamas is done waiting. Hamas is saying, stop with your meetings and your handshakes. It's time to get on a bunch of gliders and go screw up some people's weekend at a music fest. That's what they did. So that is what this is about. Again, stop with the, it's biblical, nothing we can do. Stop with the whole, we've got to stay neutral in this whole thing. We don't have to stay neutral. We know what happened. This is no different than Russia and Ukraine. We know what happened. Russia took tanks over the borders and invaded and started blowing up the houses of innocent people. There is no middle ground there. We know who the aggressor in that instance was. It's Russia. There is no question. There is no question here that the Russia in this scenario is Hamas. So let's be consistent. Although I don't know, as screwed up as our political, there's a lot of manipulation going on out there. I mean, are we 3 weeks away from certain people in America just openly going, I support Palestinian terrorism? Is that how attractive the idea of being seen as a contrarian is? Because there's a lot of contrarians out there saying, yeah, but the Palestinians have been oppressed for years. Yes, they have. Yes, they have. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about these babies. Oh, geez, here we go. So we got to do this now. So here's the story. Here's the story that's been percolating for 2 days now. And it's hit full stride right now. It's breaking right now. It's the big story. So it's the story about babies and beheadings. God, I can't even get those words out. So the story's first started coming about, oh, the Hamas people, they went into nurseries and hospitals and they beheaded all the babies, and that was reported, and that obviously took off because what a horrible, horrible thing. And then it was walked back yesterday. And then it started coming out again. Then a CNN reporter said that they had seen beheadings, but they hadn't seen beheadings of children. But then this morning, the Israeli government is now saying that that is true. The Israeli government is saying that Hamas terrorists went into a nursery in a hospital that was filled with babies and cut all the babies' heads off. Israel is confirming that. Here's the question. I don't even want to consider, like, I'm not even drawing a how could you don't allow yourself to do it? It's just such an objectionable idea. That's not what I want to talk about here. I want to talk about when I hear that, and when I hear that it comes from Israel, and when I hear that it's placed on Israel's enemy, an enemy that has done a really terrible thing. I think, wow, how can it's good for, look, oh boy, how do I, man, I wish I was more articulate. How do I word this properly? It's obviously a terrible scenario and a very dark thing to even talk about. But if it's true, it's good for the Israeli cause. So now we get into the fog of war and the idea of propaganda. So you have to look at that story. The Israeli government is saying that the Hamas terrorists beheaded dozens of babies in a hospital. So when you hear that, you have to go, oh, that's really bad for Hamas and really good for Israel. Of course, it is Israel saying it. So I ask myself, do I believe it could be true? Based on everything that I have seen, living through 9/11, the things that I know to be true from these people, these monsters. Let me be clear. I'm not talking about Palestinian people. I'm talking about terrorists. I'm talking about radical Islamic terrorists and the stuff that we've seen out of them. They don't represent the entire Muslim faith, and that's an argument for another day. I'm not going into it. I have a number of friends who are Muslim. Talking to James yesterday, I didn't tell the story on the air, but I've told the story before on the air of the time I traveled to the Super Bowl with my two friends who were both Arab, both Muslim, Ali and Tariq. And it was in 2005. And I thought it was hysterical how they were harassed at the airport. I mean, they got singled out for everything. There are a couple of big Arab looking dudes in their 20s. 2005, yeah, they're probably going to say. Anyway, so I'm not talking about these people. I have very good friends. We talked last night. Half of my friends are Jewish. Two people I just mentioned are Islam. That's their faith. They're not bad people. These are not bad. These are not people that want to climb on a glider and behead some raver girls. That is not, I mean, so let's be very clear about who we're talking about, and let's not get lazy and lump everybody into one group. And I'm going to move on from this because you don't need my dumb fat ass sitting here lecturing you about how not all Arabs are bad. We know this. But it's at times like this when we tend to lean on takes and sometimes support policies that do tend to blur the line. Where basically all Muslims are lumped in as one thing. So anyway, but moving on. So I ask myself, do I believe this? Do I believe that Hamas terrorists are capable of such a despicable act as cutting the heads off babies? Do I believe this? First of all, not whether or not it can be propaganda. We know it can be. We know that it benefits the Israeli cause of these kinds of horrors. But do I actually believe it's something that could be possible? And I got to say, yes, I do. I absolutely do. As dark as that is for my soul. Because it would be very nice to hear the Israeli government is confirming that over 24 babies were beheaded. That would be a really easy one for me to go, oh, of course they are. Yeah, of course they're confirming that. They want that out there. But next question, do I believe that the people who are being accused of doing this are capable of doing this? And the answer is absolutely yes. There are also all these reports you've seen going around about how people inside Gaza are like, the Israeli military is warning us to get out. Is that a bad thing? Is that supposed to be a bad thing? Thank your lucky stars that the Israeli military is giving you guys like 3 or 4 days to get the hell out. But get the hell out. Go live in a tent. Because of what happened from people inside your city, because of what occurred over the past 4 or 5 days, you're not going to have a home. You're not going to have a home anymore. They're going to carpet bomb the shit out of that. And you know what? Most of the world is okay with it. Seems like most of the civilized world is on board. But do I believe in the baby? Yeah, I do. I believe that's probably true. I saw a video accidentally last night. There's guys, you gotta stay frosty. If you are trying to avoid shit that you just don't need in your life, like I have been with a lot of the videos here. I like the videos. I like watching things explode from miles away. That's fine. That's pretty. That's like, I'm detached from it. But it's the close-up stuff. You know what I mean? It's we're first on the scene where this shooting just took place, and then they show bodies and stuff. I don't want to do that. So I accidentally saw something last night. It was labeled as concert attendees, festival attendees. That's what it said. Festival attendees escape with their lives. So I thought, oh, okay, escape with their lives. All right, I'll watch this. So I click on it. And I'm like, this will be harrowing. But at least at the very end of it, they escape with their lives. And here's what it is. It's one of them. They got one of them dash cams, right? So it's just their car. They've just been flushed out of this music festival by, the paragliding Hamas. They've been flushed out. They run to their car. They get to their car. They get on the road. And it's one of these like rural roads, where they have these outdoor music venues. They're always kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You drive for miles and miles and farmland and all that. So that's what you're seeing. So they're in this car and we've got the dash cam and we're seeing it right out the window of the front dash. And this car is motoring, man. They are getting the hell out of there. They come winding around this rural road. There's nobody else out there. There's nobody. You don't see any other cars. They seem to be first out. And they come whipping around a turn and you can see down the stretch of the road. There ain't nothing to come and they are flying. They take another turn and boom. It's like 5 dudes in the road, just standing in the road. Now, remember, we're watching this on the dash cam, and I clicked on this because it said festival attendees escape with their lives. They turn this corner, and they see they're probably 50 yards away from these men in the road when they first see them. So probably 50 yards. They come around the turn, they're good 50, half a football field away, and the car now slows down significantly. The car's going like 5 miles an hour, like they're trying to figure out what's going on up here, what's going on up here. The driver decides, all right, let me go see what's going on. And the driver pulls up to one of the men in the road who raises a gun and kills everybody in the car. I saw it captured on the dash cam. You see the windshields break. Then you get to ride in the car because they're dead, but the car is still moving. So the car rolled about another 200 feet before it crashed in the back of one of them fancy Nissan pickup trucks that these terrorists prefer to use. God, man. I talk about this a lot on this show, and we're going to move on from this subject here in a minute, but I talk about a lot on this show about how just, like that. Life is like that. 1 minute, these people are just leaving this concert and they're like, we made it. There's nobody. We're getting out of here. I don't know what's going on. And then they turn the corner and they see the dude with the gun. He just raises it up and kills them dead instantly, blinking like that. So you ask me, are these freaking people capable in the name of their twisted? Because that's the thing. The people at the top, the people who planned this, the people who funded this entire thing, this Hamas invasion, this terrorist attack on Israel. The people who did that, they did it for very specific modern geopolitical reasons. It's about real estate for them. But the people who climbed their ass into these freaking winged go-karts and flew into the music festival, or then just, drove their pickup trucks into towns and started slaughtering people, those people are literally doing it because they're inbred, broken religious freaks. Those people probably are doing it because they're like, yeah, I'm going to cut the head off a baby because I'm going to get 70 virgins. Really? That makes sense to you? That works logically? That if your God kill a baby, chop its head off, you get laid by 70 virgins. You think that's... who would even pledge that religion? Like if that's here's what you got to do. You got to kill a baby. All right, whatever. All right, so there you have it. That's Israel. That's happening. Obviously, it's an ongoing story, and who knows? All right, let's move forward. Moving forward, other things are trending. Let's see here. What else do we have? Twitter. I mentioned Twitter. Okay, so 2 stories regarding Twitter today. Europe, let's see here. Europe has given Elon Musk and Twitter 24 hours to answer for their blatant distribution of misinformation. I mean, look, it wasn't just me. I'm glad to see this story because I'm watching this story unfold. And as a news junkie who has been watching this now and using Twitter for a good 10 years for all of these stories, I say going back to Ferguson. It was Ferguson where I first realized, wow, Twitter is a fantastic tool for getting real information. Not anymore. It was terrible. And I ranted a little bit about it on Monday about how Twitter was ridiculous this weekend. It was silly. There was nothing to be learned from Twitter. And I'm glad to see that Europe also feels the way. Europe gives Elon Musk 24 hours to respond about Israeli-Hamas war misinformation and excessive violence on Twitter. Thierry Breton, the European Commissioner for the Internal Market, said in a letter addressed to Elon Musk on Tuesday that his office has indications that groups are spreading misinformation and violent terrorist activity on X Twitter. Apparently they're being respectful and calling it X. He urged Musk to respond within a 24-hour period. The letter comes after numerous researchers, news organizations, and other groups have documented a rise in misleading, false, and questionable content on X. See, it's only questionable if you don't already want it to be true. See, that's the problem. And that's why they are looking at us, the great unwashed, and going, what do these idiots want to be true? Let's create something. We'll make it look like a news story, and it will be everything that they want to be true. And then they'll share it. And you know that little niece they got that they always argue with at the dinner table because she's a dumb college liberal? Yeah, he's going to forward this story to her, and she'll know, she'll learn, she'll come. That's what this is about. It's about manipulating us because they think we're stupid, and we're not. Certainly we're not. Certainly the people that tune into this dumbass show every day aren't, because for one thing, you have an interest in what's happening in the world and what people are talking about. And also, if you've been here these 3 years now, you're probably not somebody who's diehard for one party. You're not ride or die for one or the other. You kind of recognize, as I do, that this is all a big manipulation and that we got to stay frosty. And at the very least, we need to bond together. We need to create our own little thing. All right, so there you go. Failure to comply with the European regulations around illegal content on social media will result in fines of up to 6% of the company's annual revenue. That seems excessive. But, okay, so your problem is disinformation and, radicals and terrorists using Twitter as a platform to organize and to wage things. That's the concern. That's what Europe is saying they were seeing over the weekend. So if that's your concern, shouldn't your ultimate penalty be they're not allowed, you shut them down? No, you're just going to take money from them. You're going to let them keep doing that. You're just going to start to make a little something off the top. That's the world we live in. Europe is angry that Twitter is spreading misinformation. The penalty, as Europe sees it, is not going to be shutting them down, thus stopping the misinformation. No, the penalty is going to be cut us in, bitches, 6%. Fucking people, this world. All right, so also comes this story. This is, let me see, who did this study? A coordinated propaganda campaign on X is spreading wild disinformation about the Israeli-Hamas war. NBC News has uncovered 67 accounts. But that's not a lot. That's 67. There's like 1 billion people on Twitter. You know what 67 is? It's nothing. NBC News, although I personally seem to be getting exposed to all 67 because I saw a lot of this nonsense. Video game footage being thrown out there is... Although I did see one really funny one. It was somebody posted Tel Aviv right now, and it was like military tanks, but it was actually it was like a phony military parade from Disneyland. It was funny. I'm like, yeah, Now, that's the kind of war humor I like. NBC News has uncovered 67 active accounts on Twitter and X that have been posting false information about the conflict in Israel, and researchers believe they are part of a coordinated campaign. Of course it is. Anyone who knows anything about social media techniques and tactics knows that these are campaigns perpetrated by hundreds of people. Hundreds of people in one location, backed up by thousands of other people in other locations around. That's how these things work. What do you think these like bot farms are phony? Do you think they're not real? Of course they're real. There's one in Irving. I went to one the other day. Well, no, not the other day. It's not the other day. And it's not a bot farm. It's a bot farm. I'm saying it's a bot farm. They wouldn't say it's a bot farm. Anyway, these things exist. There's jobs out there for people who just want to talk shit on social media. A lot of kids looking for jobs. Research conducted by Althea, a company that specializes in disinformation, revealed that 67 accounts used similar messaging and verbiage related to the Israeli-Hamas war. Before the terrorist attacks committed by Hamas on October 7th, the content posted was innocuous and didn't appear to be connected. But immediately following the attacks, a pattern was uncovered. Many of the videos that have gone viral have been debunked, including one pro-Palestine video that was found to have been footage from a video game. I saw that one, but I saw other ones too. The spread of videos like this from just 67 accounts mean that millions upon millions of users have been exposed to false or unreliable information. That's it, man. They know you're dumb. They know what you want to believe. They're going to put what you want to believe in your head, and you're going to go, I trust this person, and then they're going to hit you up. I don't know what they're going to hit you up for. Doesn't necessarily have to be as blatant as just money, but whatever. Maybe it's a follow. Maybe they come to town and you show up at their speech. I don't know. This is how these people build their, what do they call it? Clout, social media clout. The point is this. There was a time when there was at least the appearance of an effort on the part of the authority figure at Twitter to stop some of these people from putting out terrible, misleading propaganda. There does not seem to be any checks or balances anymore whatsoever. That's not a free speech issue. That's not about free speech. It's about yelling fire in a crowded movie theater. You can't do that. And we know why you can't do that. All right, moving on. Let's see. What else do we have here? New York City is trending today. New York City Mayor, what's his name? Eric Davis? What's Eric Williams? Who's our guy here in Dallas? Eric Johnson? Eric Adams? It's Eric Adams in New York. I'm playing dumb. Eric Adams is putting New York City on high alert here in the opening days of this war in Israel. He believes New York City is a target. New York City is a target. Damn right it is. New York City, the capital of Jewish America. I mean, there are more. I mean, that's where the Jewish immigrants came from. I mean, the Jewish communities in New York, in the East Coast, massive. So yeah, I would think that would probably be a pretty big target. So there you have it. New York City is on red alert for terrorist activity. We know New York City's a target. There you have it. All right, let's take a break here. Let's take not a break from the show, but let's take a break from all the heady, horrible, disgusting things. What did I tell you? Hey. It's all right. But what did I tell you? What did I tell you going back to last year? But what did I absolutely tell you in April of this year? What was it? What did I tell you? Do you remember? No, you don't. I told you, look out for the Rangers. Your Texas Rangers are going to the American League Championship Series. Who could have thunk it? This guy, been saying it all year. Haven't been hyping him. Why? Well, didn't want to feel like a bandwagon jumper. But those of you who've been listening to the show, you may have heard me over the course of the last couple of years go, because I'm super obsessed with my White Sox and how they completely botched their rebuild. And one of our big partners in the rebuild was the Texas Rangers. So I've also been watching the Texas Rangers rebuild, which started 2 years after our White Sox rebuild, 2 years after my White Sox rebuild. And the Texas Rangers are in the American League Championship Series. And my White Sox lost 100 games last year. So let's talk about the Rangers. I've been a very big and quiet supporter of the Rangers. I love this team. How do you not love this team? Can I also say this about last night at Globe Life Field? Congratulations. I won't call myself a we on the Texas Rangers because I know some of you have probably grown up your entire lives. Although I might have claimed to be a Texas Ranger fan going back a lot longer than many of you. I mean, I go all the way back to Doug Rader and winning ugly in 1983. So that's when I first noticed the Texas Rangers and went, you know what, that's a pretty cool team. Then when I moved here in 2001, I made the Texas Rangers kind of a thing. Like I was like, yeah, this will be good. I could totally root for the Rangers. And I became a Rangers fan for a number of years, although not a crazy Rangers fan because this was not a crazy baseball town. It was hard to find anybody. I was on the radio. Nobody wanted me to talk about the Rangers, right? So there was really no avenue. They weren't really a big thing. But what I saw last night at Globe Life Field, the Metroplex. Sure, we're bandwagon jumpers, but why not? So what? At least we're on the bandwagon. Did you see that game in Tampa Bay a couple weeks ago? There was like 50 people there. Texas Rangers deserve our support. Texas Rangers deserve us to start going nuts, to start selling the bootleg t-shirts on street corners, to start having it lead off the local news. I mean, I don't know that we're going to get there. It is, after all, baseball, and this is football season. But my God, what an exciting team. I mean, man, they did it so quietly. That's the thing. The Rangers snuck up on a lot of people. Not me. I've been saying it's a Corey Seager. When they started getting these pieces 2 years ago, when they just started one by one, holy shit, the Rangers just acquired the top pitcher on the market. Holy shit, the Rangers just acquired Corey Seager. Holy shit, the Rangers just acquired the top pitcher on the market. Holy shit. I mean, they quietly did this over the course of 2 years, and then they bring in Bochy, Bruce Bochy, the manager, who had retired. You know, I mean, look, I wanted Bochy for my White Sox, and they went with, I don't even know the name of the guy that they got now, but that's who I wanted. So they got him. So the Rangers got him, and that's good. Took over this team. There is a vibe on this team. There is a joy. There is a thing about this Rangers team that makes you want to root for them. Now, Major League Baseball has been pretty much marginalizing the Rangers all season long. They've been a fun little story. Hey, look at the Rangers. Hey, they're better than anybody thought. Thought they were going to suck. That Texas Rangers, they're supposed to suck. They don't suck. They're actually really good. And here's the problem for baseball. Postseason baseball is a tournament. The Texas Rangers, over the course of 162 game season, were dominant. They are, by just about every measure, one of the 5 to 10 best teams, certainly in baseball. I mean, now we're down to the Final Four. But throughout the course of the season, they were a team. They got no credit from anybody at any time because everybody just expected, they'll fall apart. And they almost did. They almost did. Blew the division on the last day. Well, blow is a little difficult or a little bit extreme maybe. But limp in as a wild card, win that. Then it's like, okay, now you got to take on the Baltimore Orioles. And what did the entire Major League Baseball world say? The Major League Baseball world settled, by the way, on the East Coast, very close to Baltimore. Oh, Texas Rangers gonna learn what big boy baseball is. That's what I heard someone say. Texas Rangers gonna learn what big boy baseball is. Really? Oh, really? Baltimore. Swept Baltimore, who was a darling team. Baltimore is a darling team. Oh, they've had high draft picks for a number of years, and we can't name any of these players' names, with the exception of maybe Adley Rushman. They're all just, there is no Cal Ripken on this team. There is no Eddie Murray or Brooks Robinson. Oh, but they're grand. This Baltimore Orioles team is going to restore O's pride to baseball. No, they didn't. They got blown out by the Texas Rangers, who absolutely nobody gave any credit to all season long. It was scary. I mean, there were moments, look, I'm watching this, and I don't have my heart with the Rangers the way some people do. My heart is with this stupid son of a bitchin' team. That's where my heart gets crapped on. So because my heart isn't fully with the Rangers, I watched this season fully expecting them to collapse. Thought they were. Thought I was watching it. I was enjoying it. I was miserable baseball boy for the last couple of months. I knew that my team was completely out of it, so all I had was to root against the Chicago Cubs and root for the Rangers. However, while rooting for the Rangers, fully expecting the wheels to come off and me to be really upset. How about sports, though? And I know we're talking this, I don't want to go off on and get very, esoteric about this, but how about sports? How about what sports does to us? Some people willingly choose to avoid sports. Like, I think we all know dudes, like you think like, oh, all little boys grow up liking sports. No, that's not true. I know plenty of grown-ass adult men who don't like sports at all. And I think you're depriving yourself of something, because look at what we sports fans, imagine you're a Dallas fan. Look at what you've gone, look at the roller coaster you've gotten to ride in the last 3 days. You went through an absolute humiliation at the hands of your football team. The Dallas Cowboys broke a lot of hearts on Sunday night. People probably had difficulty getting up and going to work on Monday morning. But you know what probably got them there? The idea that they knew the Rangers had a couple of games against Baltimore coming up. And look at what happened last night. Let's show this. I'm going to show this. We got some amazing video, because this is, look, if you're not a baseball fan, that's fine. Just, indulge me here. We don't do a lot of baseball, but this is a very big moment. It is a big moment. It's a big moment for Texas Ranger baseball, which has not been a wildly successful entity. Two World Series in a row, heartbreaking losses in both of them, and that's pretty much the extent of the Texas Rangers baseball greatness history. Until now, we've got this. And this team, man, there just seems sometimes, look, let me tell you something. I hate to do this, but I'm going to do this. In 2005, my baseball team won the World Series, and they were not supposed to win the World Series. They were a mid team at best that entire season, but they got into the playoffs. And as I say, it's a tournament, and anybody can win a tournament because anybody can get hot. And my team got hot in the playoffs. They ran through the postseason. A team that they were a wild card team. They weren't even supposed to be there. They ran through the postseason. I believe it's still the greatest postseason record in baseball history. They went 12-1 on their way to winning the World Series. They opened up, swept the World Series champion Boston Red Sox. Then they lost one game to the California Angels, or Los Angeles, and then they swept the Houston Astros in the World Series. So whatever that number is. The reason I mentioned that team is because I started watching that team, and I saw it started to happen. I saw it happening, and I went, this team is not that good. This team is not as good as they're playing. I don't know why they're playing this good. It's magic. Magic sometimes happen. I am telling you, Ranger faithful, I'm getting that same feeling watching this Ranger team. Now, I know we're probably looking at Houston, which, oh my God. Again, we go back to the beauty and horror of sport. Rangers get swept by Houston. We're going to be devastated. We are going to be absolutely devastated. They don't even have to get swept. We get well, look, if we put up a good fight against Houston, maybe we can take some pride and come into next season going, Rangers going to be something now. Rangers, ain't nobody going to get snuck up on by the Texas Rangers next season. The Astros scare the shit out of me. Again, because I'm this team. And although we swept them in 4 games in the 2005 World Series, I don't think we've beaten the Houston Astros since. So I hate the Houston Astros. So let's watch some of this video. I want to watch this. This is pretty great. Here you go, Texas Ranger fans. Here's your moment. Let's watch this. Here we go. Whoa, hold on. Here we go. Sorry. Boom. Let's watch this. Let's enjoy.
The Texas Rangers are going to the championship series.
Man, these guys are all just... There's something special here. I can't explain it.
Bruce Bochy's club sweeps the 101-win Baltimore Orioles.
Not supposed to happen.
Hot stretch at the right time. And for the first time since 2011, the Rangers are going to play in the American League Championship Series.
If you think about it, they've already beat the two best records in the American League. And so they're like, why not? Why not us?
Why not?
Nathan Eovaldi does it tonight. 2-0 in the postseason. 6 1/3 in the clinching game of the wild card series. 7 innings in the clinching game of the division series. And you heard the chants beginning in the 9th inning. The Astros with a 2-1 lead in the series over the Twins. This crowd started to chant, "We want Houston."
No!
Will it be a battle of Texas? A battle for the American League.
All right, so I understand, sure, the appeal of the Battle of Texas and all that, but man, I don't want Houston. Why would you want? No, I don't want Houston. No, you want Minnesota? Give me Minnesota. Serve me up Minnesota. I've been watching Minnesota all year. The Rangers can destroy Minnesota. The Rangers, like I said, magic, right? Magic and getting hot at the right time. The Rangers can destroy Houston as well. It's all magic at this point. But I feel more confident that they could probably take on the Twins easier than and then there's all that added battle for Texas BS between Dallas and Houston that we got to put up with. But look at me being afraid. See, I'm being a coward. All of that lament was driven by cowardice, because the flip side is, what if we kick Houston's ass? That's right, Houston. Woo! Going to the World Series and then get our shit handed to us by Atlanta. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a fun season and the Rangers are awesome. Here's the last thing I want to show you. This was in the locker room. I love this. Bochy. Bochy is such a dude. Let's see. Oh, all right, here we go. Here, let's watch this. This is Bochy coming into the locker room. This is the official celebration, his little speech to the team. Let's watch this. Here you go. A little more Texas Rangers love here on the High Noon Rant. All right, boom.
Looks pretty good right now, doesn't it?
It does, and these are two guys that are baseball players, tremendous work ethic, high character, love the game, and passion. And look, here he is. When you hear players talk about him, Derek, it reminds me of the way you talked about Joe Torre. It reminds me, Poppy, of the way you talk about Tito Francona. And Kevin, I'm telling you right now, that bond is real, and it matters, and especially in October.
I mean, let's listen.
Yeah, shut up.
One of the most incredible things I've seen. The only thing I need to know right now, Hedgie, what's the number on your ass right now?
Enjoy it. Well deserved. We just did everything right. We just did everything right with this rebuild. They did everything right. It kills me. They did everything right. Look at that.
I tell you what, guys, when we talk about managers, I probably refer myself to old school manager because probably in the era that I play at. But I tell you what, I play for a couple of managers that instead of they look at me.
All right, there you go. We're good with that. Appreciate you, Big Poppy, but I don't want to struggle with what you're trying to say because I'm sure it's deep. Texas Rangers, there you go. We're gonna game going on now. Is the Twins Astros game? Doesn't that start right now? Maybe in a couple hours. I don't know. The Astros win. We're playing the Astros. I want the Twins to win, man. Look, I know there's something to be said about having it set. Like today, fine. Let's go into this evening knowing that it's going to be Rangers Astros. Let's start getting psyched up for that. Oop, hold on a second. Oops, sorry. But I don't know, man. I really want the Twins. The Twins are beatable. I just feel like, although the Twins, the Minnesota Twins, you know what? Maybe we can't have the Twins. Maybe there can't be Twins and Rangers, because to me, the Twins are very similar to the Rangers in that, well, no, the Twins are kind of a magic team. And I know this because they're my team's greatest rival. The Twins are kind of a magic team. When the Twins are not supposed to be really good, the Twins are suddenly really good. And when the Twins are supposed to be really good, they're not all that good. So I don't know. This worries me now. Now a short series. Maybe I don't want the Twins. Maybe that's the kryptonite that, the magic twin. I don't know. Whatever. You know what? Let's do it. Let's be ballsy. Let's be men. Let's be men about this. Bring on Houston. That's what I want. Hold on. What's my next story? Computer's acting weird. Sorry, folks. Hold on. It's not a connection issue. It's actually a hardware issue. There's this like button for airplane mode that somehow engages on its own. Come on. There we go. Now we're... all right, Rangers, what else do we have here? Oh, okay, so here's a story. We'll show this one. This story's been going around for like a couple of days now, and I've been ignoring it because it's just like, roll your eyes and be like, don't give any oxygen to that fire. And but it's kind of taken off because corporates are getting involved in all this stuff. Do you know about the Torchy's situation? Did you see the situation at Torchy's there in where, I don't know, what is it? Torchy's in Fort Worth. So this happened. Torchy's is a taco place, for those of you who don't know. This happened to Torchy's in Fort Worth on Sunday. Apparently a bunch of Nazis were out there. That dude's a Nazi. There's another Nazi. I don't know what the hell that is. Here, we'll replay it. Let's see if we can replay it. Yeah, all right, so here it is. This is about as good of the video as we're going to get. All right, so that's Torchy's. Apparently, there was a bunch of Nazis handing out flyers. There's a Nazi right there. There's a Nazi. He's putting his sunglasses on to go into the bathroom. You creep. That's a weird move. All right, so, so people freaked out, obviously. We know there's Nazis. We know that here's what we should be freaking out about. We shouldn't be freaking out about the fact that there are Nazis. We know that there are Nazis. The unspoken rule over at least the past 50 some odd years of my life has always been, if you're going to be a Nazi, keep it in your garage. Okay. Don't bring it out to Torchy's. Don't bring it out in public. That's the thing that concerns me, is that there seems to be a generation, millennials. See, millennials really embrace the Nazi things. Every time I look at a Nazi, I'm like, that's a millennial. What happened? What happened with millennials that all of a sudden they started to go, maybe Hitler wasn't, like, how did this shift? I am very concerned by that aspect of it. Not that there are Nazis. We know that there are Nazis. I'm concerned that Nazis feel comfortable enough to just go to Torchy's on a Sunday. I'm also a little bit upset that there weren't a whole bunch of people that beat the crap out of them, because, yes, I do advocate for that. I do believe in beating up Nazis. Yes, I do. I believe in beating up Antifa breaking windows. Beat that guy up. Nazi, beat that guy up. Somebody burning down a police station, beat that guy up. I do believe in tuning people up. Not me anymore. I'm old, but... All right, so Torchy's is saying that they don't want to have anything to do with this. Torchy's is saying that they distanced themselves from this, and that they left briefly and then attempted to come back, and that the Torchy's management would not let them in, would not let them back. Here's the story. A group dressed in Nazi clothing put anti-Semitic... Do you remember, wasn't there a time, like in 1983, if I went to a Halloween party dressed as a Nazi, would that be okay? 1983. Like, wasn't there like this room for, like, it didn't mean that I was an actual Nazi, but hey, look at this, how crazy. It would mean that I'm not really being thoughtful about the actual tragedy of the Holocaust. It would mean that I'm just kind of being a dummy and making light of something that's really bad. And I shouldn't do that. That's the crime. I shouldn't do that. But you could get away with it, right? Like, you could do that stuff. I think Prince Harry dressed as a Nazi, but that was like in the early 2000s, and that was way too late to be able to get away with dressing like a Nazi, to be wacky. I'm being wacky. I'm a Nazi. Now there is no being wacky dressed as a Nazi. Now you're a full-on Nazi if you dress like a Nazi. And that's the way it should be, I think. A video of a group eating in Torchy's went viral Sunday after it was posted on TikTok. The group was eating inside the Torchy's in Fort Worth Medical District at West Rosedale Street and Forest Park Boulevard. In the TikTok video, one man in the group can be seen wearing a swastika armband over a tan uniform. Another in the group can be seen wearing a sweatshirt with an image of a skull and the slogan, God with us, some Nazi slogan, I don't know. The woman who posted the Torchy's video, Jessica Gregorio, told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram that the group of about 10 people was already sitting down and had finished eating when she walked in. She initially thought they were in costume. Let's see, like it's 1983. Their blatant Nazi paraphernalia, plus the fact that they'd been served food, and it seemed to feel like everyone was comfortable with them sitting there. It made Gregorio extremely uncomfortable. What did Torchy say? Here, where's the thing that Torchy says? Oh, for crying out loud. Whatever. Torchy says, nah, we don't do it. We don't do Nazis. Nazis can't come here. That's what Torchy said officially. All right, moving on. George Santos is trending. George Santos. Remember, we forgot about him. We forgot about George Santos. Remember, he's like the lion guy. He's like, yeah, that's the ticket. He's like that guy, but he's a congressman. He's been hit with a whole bunch of new charges. I believe it's 23 new conspiracy charges. So, that story ain't going away. And he's still a congressman because other people quit. Other people, like they're... He didn't quit. He's like, yeah, go ahead. Keep bringing these charges. Yeah, I lied. Yeah, it's all fraud. Yeah, there's like 100 charges against. I'm going to stay in Congress. I have zero principles and no shame. Nancy Mace is also trending. She started trending yesterday. Nancy Mace is a congressman from South Carolina. Man, kind of hot for Nancy Mace. What is it with all these crazy politician chicks that I'm hot for? What hot for Lorena Boebert? Even more hot for her now that I know that she's like jerking guys off in Beetlejuice performances. That's kind of, she's wild. She's wild. Nancy Mace, though, I kind of like, here's the problem with Nancy Mace. All right, look. Nancy Mace is all over. Nancy Mace doesn't stand for anything. Nancy Mace stands for Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace ran a PR firm, a very successful PR firm in Charleston, South Carolina. She's a big timer. She's a big baller in Charleston, South Carolina. Brands, and she ran political campaigns. She was a PR consultant, public relations. Well, they came to her and they said, hey, we need a candidate to run in this particular district in South Carolina. We want your PR firm to be in charge of finding us the right candidate. And so she said, okay, I'll do it. And they were like, okay, good. Go find us a candidate. And she said, no, I'll do it. And she took the job herself. She Cheney'd the gig. Remember Dick Cheney? Dick Cheney was put in charge of finding the vice president for George W. Bush. And then Dick Cheney just said, yeah, I'm just going to make myself vice president. That's what Nancy Mace did. So I always thought that was kind of fun, how she got her support in she came out of nowhere. She's attractive. She's got a nice body. She's accomplished. She's very accomplished. She's a very successful businesswoman. She legitimately grew that PR firm from nothing to something. She's got military experience. She's the first female to graduate from the Citadel. Remember Shannon Faulkner? Shannon Faulkner made a whole bunch of news back in the 90s because Shannon Faulkner was the first woman to go to the Citadel, and then she didn't make it. She quit. And everybody was like, see, women can't be at the Citadel. Ha, ha. Well, Nancy Mace was in the next class. And Nancy Mace actually graduated from the Citadel. So that's pretty good. But politically speaking, she's a nutbag. She's like all over the place. There are some things that I've heard her say that I go, yeah, I completely agree with that. So here's why she's trending now. She showed up in the halls of Congress yesterday wearing a scarlet letter A, like she's some kind of Washington D.C. Hester Pym character. So what does that mean? Why is it a big deal? The scarlet letter. Okay, so right, we all learned it in 12th grade literature. Scarlet Letter, Nathaniel Hawthorne. The story of Hester Pym, a woman back in days when they burned people at the stake, back in colonial, hell, even before that, right? This is like Pilgrim days. She got pregnant. She had a baby out of wedlock. She refused to divulge the name of the man, so the town made her wear a scarlet A for adulterer. Right? That's the whole point of it. But the letter A. Yeah, this is why we read. The letter A took on other aspects as the novel unfolds, depending on who was dealing with her. The A meant something. Dude, read the Scarlet Letter. If you haven't read the Scarlet Letter, I don't need, or the movie. There's been movies. So anyway, so she shows up yesterday with the Scarlet Letter A in the halls of Congress. And oh, look at her. Look at that girl go. And they're taking all the pictures, just posing. It's like, look at me. Put me on the newspapers. Because that's really all this new wave of politician. And again, on both sides, Republicans and Democrats. They're not actual lawyers and legislators. They're Instagram people who just want clout and influence. So that's what she's doing. So she shows up. She's being very performative with her little A. Now she says, and it's so weird because she claims they asked her, what's up with the Scarlet Letter A? Here, I'll show you a picture of it. This is her. She says that she's trying to be like the right-wing woman's candidate, right? Like she's kind of pro-choice, but then also sometimes pro-life. Like I don't know. Anyway, so here she is. We'll show you what she was wearing. Come on, really? There's not going to be a good picture? Oh, fuck. All right. Anyway, there we go. There she is. Let's watch this. What she looks like. There she is. All right, see her. So she's got like a white tank top with a letter A on it. She claims that she is wearing the Scarlet Letter A because of what she's been through as a woman since voting to oust McCarthy. What? What? You are mixing metaphors here, lady, because you are also being accused of adultery. And is this about that? Because you're claiming it's about the McCarthy thing. But remember, she got up at the prayer breakfast a couple of weeks ago where she was like, yeah, and my boyfriend tried to pull me in the bed. She's at a prayer breakfast, and she's talking about why she was late to the prayer breakfast because she had sin sex with the man she's not married to yet. And I don't know. She's fun. She's kooky. She's all over the road. Kind of hot. I kind of dig her. I wouldn't vote for her. Don't get me wrong. I mean, she's not anybody that I would ever trust with any kind of power. But unfortunately, the people of South Carolina have. So I'm just going to enjoy her. How about Mississippi? People in Mississippi have an interesting choice. Could you imagine if Mississippi had a Democrat as governor? Oh, hell, you say. Well, it is a very real possibility. Mississippi's got a Democrat, and he's a comer. People are liking him. People are like, this guy could be real. This guy could be legit. You know what his name is? Brandon Presley. That's right. And he's running for governor of the great state of Mississippi. Brandon Presley, second cousin of Elvis Presley. That's right. He's going to win. Mississippi. Come on, man. Elvis Presley is like the most famous person ever from Mississippi. Tupelo, Mississippi. He is like the most famous person from Mississippi. It's not even close. Dude is Brandon Presley. Of course he's going to win. We're going to have a Governor Presley in Mississippi. Kylie Jenner is trending. I teased this at the beginning of the show. Kylie Jenner is trending because she apparently tweeted her support for Israel. Like, what the fuck? How is this? She tweeted her support for Israel, then immediately got hammered by a whole bunch of people because if anybody is like, close to that crazy, weird, bizarro Hollywood left, it's her. So in that world, you're not allowed to just simply say the Israelis are victims. In that world, you have to go, but the Palestinians, right? Again, I always say, this is not about the historic conflict between the Palestinian people and the Israelis. This is about the events of the past 4 days. So stop it. Anyway, Kylie Jenner, she put out a thing, I will always stand with Israel. And then she got hammered. She got hammered by a lot of people, including her close friend, Bella Hadid. Bella Hadid is apparently, I don't even know who Bella Hadid is, but her dad's Palestinian. She's Palestinian. And she didn't appreciate, apparently, what Kylie Jenner said. So Kylie Jenner deleted it. She deleted it. And as we all know in social media, deleting the unfortunate tweet or text or whatever it is you put out. Deleting it almost compounds the problem, because when you delete it, you are admitting that you've made a mistake, and that's blood in the water. People, blood in the water. They made a mistake. Let's get them. Kylie Jenner taking her lumps for supporting Israel. Imagine supporting Israel is taking your lumps. Again, how is that? People, look at what happened over the past 4 days. Why would you not support the Israeli people? This isn't about what. And I am not one of these. Israel is always right. In fact, I think Israel is the cause of a lot of problems. In fact, if you've taken my body of work here doing this show over the past 3 years, you could probably cobble together enough of me talking about my issues with Israel to think that maybe I'm pro-Palestinian. No, I'm not in this situation, because like I said, we are going by the events of the past 4 or 5 days. And there is obviously someone who's the asshole here and someone who's not. Florida pastor. I like this story. All right, we're running out of things here, so we're gonna move on here. So this guy's kind of genius. Like, I kind of love this guy. I'm sure I wouldn't love this guy because he sounds like a bad guy. He sounds like look, every box that you would check, like, yeah, he's kind of a piece of shit. You would check that box. But also, people are complicated. He's got a little swag. He's got a little mojo. He's got a little thing about him that I like. He's a pastor down in Florida. I mean, but when you hear the rest of the story, you're going to be like, he's not really a pastor. He's just one of these guys who's like, yeah, I'm a hillbilly. How am I going to take advantage of people? And then, oh, Jesus. And then they pretend to be about Jesus and they start a church. And then all of a sudden, so this is what this pastor did. He got himself all hooked up with the state of Florida, where he was going to be pastoring to a bunch of like criminals and drug addicts and people who are like 3-time losers. So he set up this little place in Florida where they could all come and they can get counseling, Jesus counseling. Because, that's Florida, that passes for actual psychological counseling, Jesus counseling. So he's getting all this money from the state of Florida, and he's running this program for recently released prisoners and criminals, basically criminals, drug addicts, and all that kind of stuff. He's been doing it for years. Very successful, very popular guy in the community. Guess what? He's in jail now. You know why? Because he wasn't actually rehabilitating. He was running a crime ring. He basically, he's a pastor. He's pretending he's a pastor. He starts this thing where he gets money, he gets funding from the state to create these programs for criminals and people who are recently, the recidivism rate and all that kind of stuff. This is all a good thing for the community. So the state gives him all this money. He cashes these checks, and he basically has this building where these dudes sleep on cots, these drug addicts. He doesn't try to rehabilitate them. All he does is he plans heists. You see what I mean? On some level, I'm sure he's a bad guy. One, he's trying to dupe people who are probably decent, faithful people, although really dumb people, but decent, faithful people. He's trying to dupe them by pretending to be a pastor. There's nothing godly about this guy. Secondly, he's taking taxpayer dollars from the state by running this scam organization where he's gonna rehabilitate all of these dregs. But then, see, that's where it gets to the point where a guy like me can go, all right, I see what you did there. Respect. Then he just takes these master criminals, because that's what they are. Probably gives them all kinds of drugs. I'd get them drugs, right? It's like, you want some drug? Hey, you're recovering, right? Yeah. You want some junk? I'll go get you some junk. I need you to rob a liquor store tonight, though. And that's what he was doing. Like, he was sending these people out. Some of them big jobs. Like, they would go and they were like running like a crime ring. Guy's awesome. What's his name here? He got busted. They got busted. They were trying to take down a Home Depot. And then when they caught him, they were like, holy shit, this guy's been doing this for years. Who is Robert Dell? Robert Dell is his name. He is the accused pastor in the organized crime ring. He was the pastor of a church that helped drug addicts find redemption. But Robert Dell is now accused of using those same addicts to steal more than $1.5 million worth of goods. They got him for 1.5. That means he's probably stolen well over 5 million. If they get him for 1.5, there's stuff they ain't got, stuff they didn't find. Powerball is still trucking along. We got a Powerball drawing tonight. I think I mislabeled yesterday. I think I said yesterday there's a Powerball drawing. There is no Powerball drawing yesterday. The Powerball drawing is going to be tonight. $173 billion. Lastly, what else? I just saw this. Adam Schefter. Anthony Richardson of the Indianapolis Colts. Very exciting young quarterback. He's out for the season. Actually, I don't know if he's out for the season. He's out for the season. They're gonna roll with Minshew. Wait, is that where Minshew is? I don't know. Anyway, we're out of show. We will be back tonight. We will be doing our Radio Misfits show, so come join us then. Radio Misfits, 9 p.m. Myself and James Parker.
I've got my poetry. I've got my songs. You see me through the lonely.
How are we handling this afternoon baseball? Who are we rooting for? I mean, we heard the crowd at the Ranger game chanting for Houston, but I don't really know if I want that. Do we want it to be over with? Do we want to know? At dinner time tonight, do we want to know who the Rangers are going to be playing? Because the only way that's possible would mean that we're playing the Houston Astros, which I would really rather play the Twins. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, I love you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for joining me here every day. Tip the show if you support this kind of talk radio. If you want to get away from all the political divisiveness of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party and the liberals and the conservatives and the reds and the blues, you come here every day and we just talk about how they're all a-holes. By the way, which one of these idiots, another one of these idiot congressmen, obviously this one's a Democrat. Who is she? She's one of them. One of them is like basically just saying that Palestinians or Hamas was in the right for doing. Who is it? What is this chick's name? See, here's the thing. These idiots on the left, like their idiocy is so idiotic that it's like you don't even remember them and they stay completely meaningless. They stay completely marginalized. But then you got the guys on the right, the idiots on the right, they all look good. They look good on camera. They go on Fox. So we know who a Nancy Mace, who I do have a serious crush on. We know who a Nancy Mace is. We know who a Marjorie Taylor Greene is. We know who a Gates is. Who's this chick? There it is. Barney's got her. That Tlaib bitch. Oh my God. I saw out of her own mouth. I saw her say something that was so unnecessarily inflammatory. Wow. I mean, I'm not one of these. It's Rashida Tlaib. There you go. So I remember a couple of years ago, wasn't there? We put them all in the same box, the squad, even though they're not all in the same box, but whatever. That chick's a problem. This chick is a problem. There is obviously an aggressor in this situation. And to have a position, well, actually, she doesn't have much of a position. She's a pretty marginalized member of the United States House of Representatives. In fact, another Democrat who I've never heard of in the House said she's fringe. Nobody listens to her. Which I guess is good, right? I mean, the fringe freaks on the left, and there's a lot of fringe freaks on the left. They're all pretty marginalized, right? This Tlaib chick, she didn't sit on any. Even when Pelosi was in charge, she wasn't in charge of any committees. She didn't have any power. She didn't have any subpoena power or any of the real juice that members of Congress wants. But I don't know, man, the crazy right, man. It seems like Gates has power. He just took down the Speaker of the House. Tlaib, keep her marginalized, keep her in her little corner. And then come on, Democratic Party, run somebody against her, because we can't have people like that. We can't have, just because she's the polar opposite of whatever the worst and most objectionable behavior you see on the right, just because she's the polar opposite of that, doesn't mean she's good. It means that she's also garbage, just in a different direction. Indefensible. You know what I do like, though? I like that AOC. I like the AOC. That's right. I like her. I'd like to take a hot tub with AOC and Nancy Mace. Woo! We'll settle some world issues. Ain't gonna be no sexing, that's for sure. Neither one of them would touch me with a 10-foot pole. Still be fun to be in a hot tub with them. All right, bye everybody. We'll see you tonight at 9 o'clock.
Tomorrow is another day. The best is yet to come. I have found a different way, so baffling to some. I can smile a little now. Things are going good. I always had to be on guard. That is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.